You're listening to the I Love You Keep Going podcast with George Haas. For more information, please visit our website at www.mettagroup.org. That's www.mettagroup.org.
So welcome everybody. This is I Love You. This is I Love You Keep Going. It is July 11th, 2024 at 7:35 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And I thought that I would talk a little bit about the end result of all of this attachment work that we talk about incessantly here. And that is, what's it like to be in a secure, functioning relationship? And really, the key there, I think, is to enjoy being in that kind of relationship. You are safe, that is to say, you don't feel anxiety or a sense of risk of abandonment when you express yourself authentically. And what we mean by authentic expression is that you're willing to give a complete and authentic representation of your experience of the present moment to someone else. This, of course, depends on the agreement of intimacy that you have with them. We talk about Robin Dunbar's research on A relationships, B relationships, C relationships, D relationships. He added E relationships in the new research. F relationships, if you talk about the whole picture beyond the representation of 3D faces in the mind's capacity to recognize things. So making this distinction between the recognition of 2D faces and the recognition of 3D faces, the number for 3D faces staying around 150, and then the 2D faces up to, say, 5,000. We make agreements for intimacy with people. That is, we get permission, consent to express ourselves authentically to them. We give consent to people to express ourselves authentically, to hear the stories of their authentic experience. In Above the Line, we're really making the obligation to tell somebody everything. And in the way that Dunbar describes this, the organization of social relationships are A relationships, which are primary relationships. In our society, it's the great romantic relationship, really. Somebody that you see and take care of on a daily or every other day basis. Somebody you tell everything to, your whole experience. And with A relationships, I think the salient feature about them is that you put the needs of the relationship ahead of your individual exploration needs. We often talk about exploration as primary exploration, which is the pursuit of things that are meaningful to you, and secondary exploration, which is the pursuit of the resources that you need in order to pursue the primary exploration. And so when you talk about an A relationship where you make a commitment to somebody to take the needs of the relationship and put them ahead of the exploration needs, this is a significant commitment. And often one of the conflicts in that kind of relationship is where both people have not really solidly settled into that pact of the relationship needs taking precedent. Dunbar, he talks about the number of people that you need to know in order to have the support that you need in order to explore in a deep way to find the meaningfulness of life. And his research showed that the people that are the happiest and the most capable of that exploration are people that have an A relationship if they want it, but more importantly, they have B relationships and enough of them that they're available when you need them. So a B relationship is, again, above the line, somebody you see and take care of in person, somebody who you've agreed to take care of in the way that they've agreed to take care of you. You collaborate in understanding how each of you needs to be taken care of and use the resources of the that are available to you to support that kind of exploration, that support for each other, so that you have the encouragement that you need to explore, but you also have the safety net that if something happens in the exploration and you get discombobulated, you have somebody available to you that you can come back to who will then help you re-regulate. And then once they see you're re-regulated, encourage you to continue the exploration that you're engaged in. So in his research, that was 2 to 5 people in that B category. In the C category, 30 or 40 people, 15 of which, 10 or 15 of which would be close like Bs, except you don't have the bandwidth to support them in the same way. And then D relationships are rounding up that 150 people that you can recognize, and then out from there, if you have a social media account with 5,000 people in it. But when you come to these close relationships and you negotiate the agreements in terms of care, the conflicts or the difficulties in the relationship settle out. You open a topic, you discuss it, you find a solution to it. This is a win-win. You don't allow one person in a relational negotiation to feel as if they're losing. And then you make the commitment to each other for care. Opening the topic creatively, collaboratively, negotiating a way that that might work in the relationship, and then committing to the care of the other person committing to your care, and then the conflict in the relationship settling. And over time, as you do more and more of these negotiations and settle more and more of the conflict and negotiate strategies for dealing with conflict in a relationship, the fearfulness of abandonment becomes more and more settled, and the state of care that you receive is better and better. So you're really in pretty good shape to go out there and explore and then come back. One of the things about exploration is the discovery of what it is that you need to know in order to feel fulfilled, but also somebody that you can then express what you found out, who will respond with interest, respond with a sense of delight in what you've discovered. And so there's a quality to the people that you keep close to you, that they're really excited about the things that you discover. And often there's a synergy between what you find out and express to them, which is useful to them in their own exploration, and then what they find out and express to you is useful to you in your exploration. There's a kind of subtle quality to that you can rely on. We often talk about creative solutions or creative endeavors that are the source of this meaningfulness. And because this is a meditative community and we're engaged in spiritual exploration in addition to other kinds of exploration, there's also a component of the creative expression of these spiritual explorations in discovering the meaningfulness of life and how we fit into it in this human condition that we have. I think that for deep spiritual practice, it's useful to have people that are also practicing so that you have somebody to express the things that you are discovering, who have some way of relating to it. One of the things that happens as you go deeply onto a path of spiritual exploration is that it's harder and harder to find people that are also moving in that direction. I think one of the things that happens quite a bit is that we get frustrated in expressing to people the things that we discover on the path that are unrelatable to people that are not on the path. And as we go deeper and deeper, fewer and fewer people are available. So I think also part of this is to understand that there can be a difference in this primary exploration, and that it doesn't have to be the same path or the adjacent path. And actually, in order not to be so isolated from our fellow human beings in the culture that we're in, we need to find various aspects of meaningfulness in each other so that we can engage in supporting each other. This is a particular thing about the view or the understanding that comes from deep meditation practice. You see and experience the world in a different way. In the West, of course, we have this Aristotelian view of how we make and understand reality, and it is often quite at odds with the Eastern approach. Aristotle posited that we take in a survey of the experiences around us through the sense gates, and that we create an internal working model of those experiences, which is largely accurate to what it's actually happening. And so there's a concrete quality to people who don't meditate, really, in terms of the way that they experience the world. If you're practicing Metta or one of these insight practices that tend to deconstruct the experience of self and also the experience of the world, it looks quite differently. You recognize that you take a highly curated survey of what's happening around you, and that you assign meaning to it, which is really linked to your conditioning, and that you then create a reality or a view, conceptual reality or a view of what's happening, which is really highly curated and specific to your conditioning. But what if you could express to somebody else this experience of your conditioning and the understanding of it, so that they could really see you and know you, and you have the feeling in being seen and known, a level of acceptance, but beyond that level of acceptance, a sense of being delighted in for the way that you are, without any explicit or implicit pressure to change into somebody else that is more acceptable. That really is that sense of security, that the way that you are is delightful. And in different attachment conditions, in insecure, organized attachment, so dismissing and helplessly preoccupied, underneath that is often this perception that we need to be different somehow in order to be acceptable. And when you move into the disorganized side of things, there's a fearfulness about the intention of other people. So in this process of doing the attachment work and repairing this and moving into earned security, those anxieties go away, and we can actually, moment by moment, express in a clear and complete way our experience of the present moment, which is really all that's necessary. And in a way that the person that we're expressing to understands what we mean. And that's that adult frame of mentalizing. You understand the curation of the present moment. You understand the meaning that you're assigning to the experience of the present moment that you're having is the first part. The second part is where you understand how to express it so that the other person receives it and understands what you mean. It's easy enough to not know somebody well enough or not understand the definitions that they use well enough that we are unable to translate or transliterate our understanding of something into terms that mean the same thing to them. And so when we make the expression, it lands in a way that is misunderstood because the definitions haven't been lined up. And then we're, in some sense, in skewed conversations where we mean one thing and they mean another, and we can't reconcile it. So that process of understanding what you're experiencing is being able to translate it or transliterate it into a way that is expressive to somebody else. And then when you express it, actually monitoring that they understand you so that there's a sense of collaborative communication. And then you take in their response, which hopefully has been transliterated for your meaning so that you understand them. And then you can successfully modify your understanding of the experience in that way, settle things. It creates epistemic trust, which is where we believe what they're telling us, and we believe what they're telling us is meant to be helpful to us, which opens up our ability to learn from them. Then, if they also believe that we tell them the truth, and what we're telling them is meant to be helpful to them, they also have the capacity to learn from us, which is really the thing that supports and energizes intimate relationships. And then they're pretty easy. One of the things about secure relationships versus insecure relationships is that secure relationships really take more energy to operate than insecure relationships do. But the longer that you put that energy into supporting it, and the better the settling of conflict or understanding how to resolve conflict and developing a sense of trust that you can resolve conflict in the relationship, you get over a hump and then the relationship settles. And actually, it takes less energy at that point, which frees up energy that you can use for your own exploration. And there's a sense of ease about it, a sense of confidence about it, that the relationship is enduring and that anything that comes up that's difficult in the relationship can be managed. And at no point is the relationship threatened because of that. Insecure relationships that we really put less energy into because they're less resilient, less reliable, and frequently come apart, can consume a lot of energy in terms of stabilizing them, which is a different kind of energy than the energy that goes into secure functioning relationships. It's a kind of ruminative energy that isn't involved in the connection, but and in internal solo activity, which burns up the energy that's available for exploration. So we tend to settle into a pattern of living where we're engaged in secondary exploration in the gathering of resources, but very little energy is left over for the pursuit of primary meaning. And so we can have a sense of despair at the difficulty of life, or we can be confused about the nature of and purpose of relationship and think that we're supposed to derive meaning from the relationship itself, not really understand that the purpose of the relationship is to support our primary exploration. But I think that once you settle into that relationship and the confidence that whatever comes up in the relationship can be managed without a threat to the continuation of the relationship, then you get into a place where it's quite easy to be together and negotiate the way in which it will support your exploration. So then, in order to get into that place, if you didn't come from a secure family system, you need to do the attachment work that will change the way that you model the experience of being in relationship. One of the things to really understand about the movement from insecure and disorganized into earned security is that you don't actually get a new brain when you develop security. You have the same brain, and because human beings are born and the brain develops after birth primarily. You're born, you have an intact brain stem, the right hemisphere is partially formed, the left one isn't so much. The environment really has a major impact on the physical structure of the brain. And if you grow a secure brain, it has a different structure than an insecure, say, a dismissing brain, insecure, preoccupied brain, or a disorganized brain. And so one of the things that happens even when we earn security is that we have that native brain with different strategies to manage it. But sometimes things can happen and the brain activates much in the way that it has always activated, and that the new strategies aren't resilient enough to overcome it. And we have the experience of the insecure or disorganized mind arising, and then often have to fall back into the processes that we used in order to move into security and redo it or support that process again into developing that secure sense again. So I think it is a practical understanding of the nature of this. We often can get into this mindset where we simply want to fix it once. I like to say, if there was a God, and I'm being somewhat facetious here, we would only have to get in shape once and then it would stay that way. But that isn't at all what the human condition is like. We are subject to old age or aging, to sickness, to death. That's for all of us. And that constant change is happening. So we get into this way of being in relationship to that and recognizing that when the earned security that we have is rocked pretty hard by something that happens to us, we may find ourselves again in the activation of a dismissing a preoccupied or disorganized state. But then we can come back into balance, focusing in the same way that we did in order to originally earn security and settle back in. There's an easy quality that comes from authentic expression. There's an easy quality that comes from complete expression. You have a sense of what's happening. Your response to those expressions is factored into a re-understanding or a rebalancing of the nature of the relational agreements between you and someone else, so you know where you are. It's when these things aren't expressed, or they're not expressed completely, or you're misled by somebody else, that it becomes unstable and difficult. We do get attached in the Buddhist sense to other people, and the loss of that attachment, or the desire for it to be different than it is, can be the source of suffering. But when you have that sense of security and confidence in your own capacity to function in the world, the relationship is more collaborative and less dependent. Still, we want to be able to go in and engage fully and just not cling. I know it's a tall order, but that willingness to fully engage and keep your equanimity is really the thing that we're looking at. The not wanting it to be different, the not wanting of the impermanent nature of all experience is that balance. And as soon as we fall into craving, aversion, or unconsciousness, then of course we're back into a place of suffering. And then finding again our groundless ground, our balance in that. I like that. I often like those videos of watching the surfers on 60-foot waves, and it's this mass of water, and it's like this little toothpick stuck in it. And when you look at it from a distance, they look completely still as they surf down the wave. But if they zoom in, you can see that there's this constant adjustment, constant involvement in the movement of the present moment. And I think that that's also true of the collaborative, secure relationships. We're constantly engaged with the other person, constantly understanding our experience and what it means, constantly understanding their experience and what that means, and constantly adjusting our understanding of our relationship together. And when that happens, we can really move these long distances together. I was in New York, when was that? It was probably last winter. And I sat at a table with people that I'd known for 40 years. And there's such a richness into the layers and layers of the experience of each other over that period of time. A kind of quickness in the descriptions of things, because our references were so similar. We knew from our direct experience of participating with each other what we meant, and it's a marvelous thing to have those kinds of connections. And at the same time, understanding the impermanent nature of relationships, and that we're constantly in a process of cultivating new relationships, because relationships are also impermanent. in the new volume of Dunbar's work, he said that most people experience the loss of a significant relationship every 2.5 years. So you get a sense of that rhythm of relationships coming and going, and then how we have to be constantly curating that garden of our social networks. But I really want to emphasize that sense of ease, that sense of agreement, and the understanding and confidence that if a conflict arises in the relationship, that it will be solvable through creative collaboration, and how that sense of understanding what's actually happening for the other person because they tell you in a complete and authentic way, and that you also have the capacity to tell them in a complete and authentic way what's happening for you, how that creates a real ease in the experience of being together. One of the things that really comes out of that kind of exchange is how useful it is to you as an individual in support of your primary exploration, in support of the things that you find meaningful, to have people around you who you can rely on to help you. There was a question which was, if you needed help, how many people do you have in your life where that you could call them and feel confident that they would help you? They would show up when you needed it. And how many of those do you need so that you have a sense of risk management so that you can really go for it? And the variations of what you'll need and what you won't need. That is to say, how many of those people would you need so that you feel covered? And then understand that each day there's an intention and cultivation of those relationships, and really seeing the value of the ones that you have that work, so that you do put in enough effort to maintain them. But that ease, that sense of safety, so you don't even worry about it. That's the idea. So let's do a little meditation practice. Any preference for loving kindness versus insight? So let's do some concentration and some insight practice. Just a basic investigation. So go ahead and take your meditation postures. So let go of the meditation. So we have a few things coming up. Saturday is the third day of the meditation and addiction series of half-day longs. We're going to talk about a disorganized attachment in the morning, and in the second session, we're going to talk about how to repair attachment conditioning and do some ideal parent figure protocol. Starting at the end of July, we're going to do a meditation and addiction level 2, which is a 12-week intensive that meets 3 times a week for an hour. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll meet. We'll do a didactic on Monday. We'll do a meditation instruction on Wednesday, and we'll do a process group on Fridays. This is around substance and process addictions. And it really is meant to be a meditation-based, attachment-focused relapse prevention program. So take a look at that. It's on the website. In August, we're going to start a meditation and attachment level 2. The mentoring aspect of that class is full, but there are spaces available if you just want to take the class without mentoring. In September, we're starting another meditation and attachment class, which has openings for mentoring as well as just attending the class. Oh, what else are we going to do? I'm going to start a series of half days uh, uh, in the fall around exploration. So I'm going to talk about secondary and primary exploration in some detail. And then I'll also talk about my own practice of photography and how I use that as one of the principal forms of primary exploration. So we'll be posting up about that soon. I offer these classes um, freely, but I do hope that if you're a resource, you will make a donation. There's a link on the website to be able to do that. Any amount is appreciated. Help support me and also the work that Mettagroup does. I really appreciate your practice, and we will see you soon. Bye.